Hey everyone, Mia Paulus here. So today we're going to talk about the one thing you need to grow your business. And I'm really excited about this one. I know I say that with like every podcast, but like I'm really excited about this one because I had huge epiphanies last night about it. And it just reiterated to me like why this one thing is so important to grow your business. So you'll want to definitely check out this podcast.
No, it doesn't have to be so hard. No, it doesn't have to be so hard. Business and life made simple.
Okay, so over the last few months, I've been doing a lot of research for this second book in this 3-part series that I'm looking to write about kind of the flow of business, of getting to a point in your life where you have joy and you can contribute to the world and just getting all that heaviness and that mess organized in your life. And I started writing like a while ago this book just about mastery of business. And on Tuesday, I did a podcast around mastery of business and the 3 things that are involved in that, which was simplicity, innovation, and marketing. And those are like the ingredients to really keep you agile and moving and taking action. And so what I'm going to talk about today really ties into those 3 elements. And as I was thinking through this book of like what could really help with action and really taking really propelling businesses along, and it's really momentum. So I'll go into detail on what momentum means, and we're going to have a little bit of a physics lesson today, which I know, bear with me because I'm a visionary. I'm not a physicist in any way, shape, or form. So but, a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we say, oh, I wish I had more time, or I wish I had more money to grow my business. And we kind of stay in that negative thing of like what we don't have and what we don't, and what's keeping us from our business. And so we're kind of creating that negative energy already by talking about all the things we don't have. But really, if we put positive energy into our business, which is momentum, and think about what that could do for your company. And it kind of ties into any of you that have read the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's all about that energy and what you think you can do. And I think about like momentum in the same way. Like when you shift your brain to be focused on the positive energy and what that momentum can do in your business, think of the difference it can make. And we're going to deep dive even more into this. So again, business, if you think about it, is not static. Life is not static. We can never be the same. Like people always say, like, this is the way I am, just accept me. No, you're always changing. You're either going to go backwards or you're going to go forward. And the same thing in business. You're either going to be regressing or you're going to be moving in a positive momentum forward. And so movement is not a bad thing in business. Changing and pivoting is not a bad thing in business. And even taking one step back to take 2 steps forward isn't always bad in business. Like if you need to regroup for a minute, breathe, and then go, like you're not necessarily going to lose your momentum in that way. Because when you think about the chaos of business versus momentum in business, they both are movement. Chaos, though, when you think about it, is like moving in all these different directions, not knowing and not focused. And where momentum to me just feels like you're moving succinctly and you know where you're going to go. For instance, like sporting events, like when you're a sports team, like you can tell when the momentum shifts and then that team has got it and they're going and there's nothing that's going to stop them. And then that's when like amazing feats happen. Like, we can list hundreds and hundreds of moments in sports where we're like, how is that even possible? And it's because they had that moment. I'm getting chills just saying that. So like you can just feel the momentum driving that team. And what's cool is like we're finally like experiencing that in our company. It's been so cool. We have so much growth. For so many years, like I knew I needed a really solid base team in place, and I knew that we would need some underlying things in place. Now, I say that loosely because you shouldn't plan yourself to death to where you don't actually take action. But because we have such a complex business model, I knew if the world got a hold of our model too quick, like we would have crumbled underneath our feet because we didn't have enough of a solid foundation. So knowing that, I knew we had to grow at a slower pace initially. Like that's the amount of momentum we could handle. But like now we have that base later. So our momentum can actually go, our speed actually can go a lot faster. So when you think about the actual physics definition of momentum, it is mass times velocity. And it's kind of cool to think about. So like if you think about mass, like its substance, like how big something is, like if you have a big tanker going at something and it's going really fast, it's going to hurt really bad. Like it's going to have a lot of momentum behind it. And same thing in business. Like, yeah, big companies or people have big email lists or big social media accounts. It's easier for them to create momentum because they have the mass. And maybe they're moving fast, maybe they're not, but they can still have quite a bit of momentum even just because of the size of what they are, right? And so those are, but then like some startups, like maybe they don't have the mass, but they have like the speed. And so they're able to still keep the momentum and continue to grow. And it's kind of that snowball effect, right? It keeps growing and scaling and scaling. So these are just kind of the tools that are out there now and how we're seeing growth trends. I have a little bonus for you at the end of this podcast where I'm going to kind of throw a wrench in what we typically think of with business and in this momentum equation. And I think like I'm so excited about it because I'm like, oh my goodness, we could literally change the momentum of business with what I've spent the last 15 years building. So I had these like huge epiphanies last night and I was so excited. So at the end, I'm going to tie this into that concept. So like for us, like we've recently, like I said, had a lot of recent momentum. And what is kind of cool is, yeah, we could plan ourselves to death before. Like we've tried to create some like just documents that were needed like internally, but not until you have enough of that momentum and the flow going. Like it took what we're doing, I guess, in the last few weeks, we've been able to do in a matter of weeks or days, where in the past it took us months and years to try to build something. So it kind of is the same thing like sporting events. Like once you get moving, it's crazy how fast you can get things done and how much energy is in people and the speed at which people are moving. And it just creates like this exciting time in business. And so when I see like all these startups trying to like plan, I seem to say this in every podcast. So I think it's because it weighs on me because I've seen it happen so many times. They plan it to death. But it's like you don't have any momentum even going. Like there's no reason to even plan that because I can tell you once the momentum starts, all that's going to change because you're going to have all of this actual client data and all this data, yeah, pretty much data just flowing through your company, and you're going to be able to know what needs to happen, the insight and the feedback that you're getting, the feedback loops. So momentum just solves so many things in business. And it ties to growth because, again, it's a snowball effect. You get that movement moving, and it's going to continue to grow and scale your business, and you're going to get further faster in your company more than ever before if you apply momentum and like the 3 principles that I talked about on Tuesday. So let's see. So again, like with business, if you think about it, when you're able to take, like as Tony Robbins always says, massive action, right? Like if you're able to take massive action, like that actually gets you more confidence in what you're doing and more surety, and you're able to get better results because you're constantly just cycling through that. I'm feeling more confident. I'm going to keep moving, and it's a cool thing because it just keeps building your company at a faster rate. And this bleeds into the people that work on your account too. They're feeling your energy, and they want to get behind what you're doing and help you even more. And so that's why you'll see, like, honestly, the rich get richer and the bigger companies get bigger, or the startups that have a lot of like speed behind them, that power, like it's able to force them through. And I get like sometimes a lot of these startups are because they have an influx of venture capital that's pushing them through. But you can do it bootstrapped. I've done it bootstrapped. Like I'm a living testament that you can build a company and build momentum bootstrapped. So you don't have to have the millions of dollars of venture capital to get your business off the ground and going. All right. So, and the more momentum you have, the harder it will be to stop you and as a company. And so that's why I really feel like momentum is that key to growth. So when you think about like just successful people in general, like how many people that, are successful never started anything or never just took a chance on things like that. Obviously, if velocity is part of the momentum equation, you need some speed behind you to get there. And then obviously, like the more confidence you gain, the faster you work, and because you know what you're doing, you're not holding back. Like in sports, like the better trained you are, the faster the more confident you'll be able to make split-second decisions. Because I always talk about simplicity, and simplicity isn't just easy or not having a lot of knowledge. Simplicity is actually the way to have simplicity is by having a deep knowledge of things. So the more you have confidence in what you're doing, the more you'll be able to continue to build on that momentum. And so it's such an important piece to have. And so with that, something to think about is mass and velocity can also be tied to like production and motivation. Or I always talk about like people, process, and technology. Like all of that in balance can help make things go in the direction it needs to go quicker. Because if you think about like the chaos versus momentum analogy I gave, like if you have things going in all different directions and all your focus is going in all different directions, your team isn't unified on your vision. I mean, I keep listing a bunch of things. Like it's going to make your business like not know which way to go. So the more you have all that solidified, the more your business is going to be able to go faster and smoother, because it's not getting outside energy and forces going with it. I'm sure there's a much cooler way to explain this from a physics perspective, but I'm going to give you my my analogy the best way I know how, based on the epiphanies I had. And I think of like how often our focus in business is just torn in so many areas. And so the more you can have those foundational elements in place, like I wrote a book around the purposeful focus in business, and the whole reason for that book was to get businesses to have like, make sure their purpose, values, and vision were solid in their company. Because if you don't have that, and a clear like brand image and all, like it's going to be hard to just move forward faster, because nobody's going to be able to make decisions on their own. And you're not going to be able to empower your team to go in the same direction as you. Because if you're all going at the same direction, think of the momentum and the speed and the velocity that's going behind your business. So even if, again, you don't have the big mass, all the big lists and the big money and the big revenue and all that, the mass, you can still have a lot of momentum just by focusing on velocity and that, and all going in the same direction faster. Now, I will say at the end, I'm going to throw in a kink on how you can really build mass, even if you're just a startup or a small business, or you're like, you're not really into having a bunch of venture capital dumped in. I have a solution for the mass part of that equation. So that's what I'm excited about. That's what's my big epiphany over last night was like, oh my goodness, like we can help with that mass side. And then, so I'm not going to get into that yet, because that's at the end. I'm getting excited about it. Okay. So, let's keep going. So what I wanted to do really quick is just talk about Newton's 3 laws of motion. And this is where I'm going to do my best to explain it. And I'll just be really simple and kind of go through them quickly. But I thought, his 3 laws of motion tie into momentum a lot, and how much these 3 laws apply to business as well. So when you think about Newton's first law, that is, every object in a state of uniform motion tends to remain in that state of motion unless an external force is applied to it. So it's kind of that an object in motion stays in motion concept. And so that's kind of the same thing with business, right? Like once you get moving, it's hard to stop it. And honestly, that's why I always told my team, like once we start marketing, I don't think there's any chance to stop it, because the world is ready for what we have. So even though we did marketing for other clients, we didn't market ourselves as much as we could have for a lot of years, because we were growing just organically out of the space we needed to go. We're now, this year, I feel like it's my calling and obligation to get what I have out to the world. And my gut was always like, once we do it, there's no turning back. And we're experiencing that right now. Like the snowball effect is happening. And this object, because it's in motion, is not going to stop. And that was always just my gut reaction. So as entrepreneurs, never downplay your gut, because it so often comes true. So, all right. So that's Newton's first law. So his second law is force on an object in mass is, the equation is force on an object in mass times acceleration. So another way of wording it is the rate of change of momentum of a body is directly proportional to the force applied to it. And so like if you're able to put more force behind something, you're going to have more momentum behind it, right? If I go shove somebody and there's some energy behind that, you're going to have that. So again, it's about being resourceful in business and how to get that energy, how to get the better qualified people. How do you have a clearer vision? All those things are force that's going to get applied to your business. Culture, better employees, empowering your employees. There's a lot more. I can keep going. Like anything that you can apply. Obviously, money will push that forward. But that's why like money isn't the object. It's the momentum that creates that growth. Money is just one of those forces that can be applied to create that momentum. Um, so that's the second law of Newton's. And then because these are all such huge epiphanies I had, like I could probably do podcasts on each one of these and go deeper. So I'll probably end up doing that down the road here. But I just wanted to get you thinking about this, and hopefully you can take some nuggets from what I'm going to say today that can help your business or give you some aha moments in your business. And the third law of motion, which was so excited about, is momentum conservation. So pretty much what this is saying is that when two objects interact, they apply forces at each other that are equal in magnitude and opposite direction. But the momentum before and after is equal. It is just transferred to the second object and it's lost from the other one. So this is awesome for us to think about in business. So you guys have probably seen like those four metal balls that are hanging where you like drop the one and it doesn't move the other two, but it comes out the other end on the other ball. And that's literally this law in a visual. And what it's doing is it's transferring the energy from the one ball all the way to the other ball. And so it's still moving it. And the cool thing I thought about is how we can literally shift and pivot in business and change directions and still not have it affect our business. I was actually going to talk about this as the end, as just kind of like a wrap up, but I think it really applies here. So I'm going to say it now. So think about what's going on in the economy right now and what's happened with businesses. And if you, let's say we're just creating negative energy in your business and you're like, you know what? I need more time. I need more money. The business model is not working. You can come up with all the negative things on why your business isn't working. But if you're focused on momentum and creating a positive energy, and you know that the momentum conservation concept, the law applies, so you could be in momentum one way and then COVID hit and it could cut off the momentum there. But what if you pivot that momentum and apply it in an opposite direction? So again, I gave examples of this, but like, these restaurants I'm seeing that have pivoted, that have created apps, that have created ways to walk your groceries out to drive-thrus, every one I've asked that's pivoted has said they're busier now than they were pre-COVID. So why is that? It's because they were willing to shift their momentum in a direction that would work. And you're like, yeah, they just got lucky, or no, when you set your mind to something, like you can shift that momentum. And what's cool is, you know, it talks about in this law about what did they say? It's like a system. It's the let me see if I can find the name. Yeah, energy of the system is preserved. So think about your business as a system. If you're bleeding out of the system revenue, like yeah, you're losing the momentum of that revenue. But again, if you shifted in the system and just shifted the momentum, you can still keep the same amount of revenue by keeping the momentum inside the system. So just like these restaurants did, they were able to keep the revenue inside their system by pivoting and giving more options to people. So I was really excited about that momentum conservation. Again, it's about expanding and contracting. I remember I was talking to somebody about my 3 phases in business. I always talk about the foundation, the growth, and the momentum phase in business. I'm like, nobody should ever be in a mature phase in business. If you are, you're going to become obsolete in 10 years, 5 years, 2 years. Who knows how long they're moving so fast. And so again, a business should always be in and out of momentum, or in and out of, like, they should always be moving, I guess is my point. Like they should always be in momentum. And when I told it to this lady I was telling this concept to, she talked about like a bathtub example. When you're like moving water back and forth, like you think about it, the water is moving in and out. Like if you just move your legs back and forth like this, like the water is moving, but it's creating the momentum even though you're moving in different directions. So I thought about like, that's really when you get out of like, even out of a growth phase and you're in a momentum phase, you always should be shifting, pivoting, adapting, looking for better ways to serve. I mean, think about like the 4-minute mile. When not until somebody broke it did they think it was ever possible to break it. I mean, look at technology. How many more changes and improvements can they keep making to the iPhone? Yet they keep making it better. I keep liking the new adjustments. Like you think eventually that it would stop being so cool, but like I love it. Technology keeps getting better. And so it's the same thing. Like there's always I think we're not even capable of what our minds can do. And so all the innovation and the change that we're seeing is the ability to tap into our brains and be able to make things at a better than we could ever think of. And so like, what are some momentum killers? These are big ones. So like for me, like turnover, I have to say turnover is probably the biggest momentum killer I've ever experienced in business. And starting and stopping or learning curves, because then you have to train them and you have to recruit them. And just the recruiting process alone can take 2 to 4 weeks. And then you have to train them another 2 weeks. And then they have to get on board of a learning curve. That could be upward to 12 months before they're like up to speed and moving at the pace you want them to go. So it's like you're looking at, 6 to 18 months of before they're adapted. And then that's like about how long employees last a lot of times like that. Like the turnover is so big just from keeping employees. So like I've known some clients that have 100% turnover every year. So think about that. They're replacing on average every single employee each year. Think about the costs of that. And they've actually quantified that cost for me before. And so I think when people look at services and they're like, oh, what's the cost of it? And they just compare dollars to dollars, but they don't ever look at the opportunity costs of like what things are costing them to do it. They think like, oh, I can do it cheaper. I can hire somebody in-house that's cheaper than that. But like, what is the opportunity costs of all of that when you have turnover, learning curves, like I said, the chaos, like that's another momentum killer. Like if you're doing so many things in your business still and you're not working on your business and at the helm and being the visionary, that is a huge momentum killer. And I've been there too. Not finding enough employees to work. I've had so many clients say, man, if I could just hire 5 employees right now, 10 employees right now, we could handle it. We have enough business for it. We just can't find employees. I hear that over and over and over again. So these are all huge momentum killers. Business processes. Now I say this loosely because that doesn't mean you don't start momentum. The processes a lot of times get created as the momentum starts. But the more you can integrate process, the more you can integrate technology and a good team, like all of that just builds into that succinctness and that kind of that flywheel I think about just moving faster and faster and faster in sync with one another. So I'm really animated today. So if you're watching my video, you're probably seeing all my hands moving. So another great one, I actually saw this one on an article, was about not answering your customers' questions or getting them online where people can search them and find them. And a while back, I'd read a book about this, that's how they ask you answer. And it talked about this concept of you should be answering every question your customer has and putting it on your website. And like, we're working on this right now as we speak. Like I'm like, oh, I should create a team sourcing 101 guide or video series. I should, we're just trying to produce as much as we can of all these questions we're getting from people. And so our graphic design team and our marketing team is just working around the clock, really trying to just produce more and more stuff to really answer people's questions, because people are willing to self-serve. So think of how much that can actually create momentum in your business if you just get it online and answered. And then you're attracting your business online. So they do 90% of the work, 80% of the work before they even talk to you. Like that is huge momentum that you can gain just from that. And obviously there's external things that can affect your momentum, like what we're experiencing in 2020. However, like I said, you can pivot and shift and keep hold of that momentum. So don't feel like it's a lost cause if you're getting these external factors that can affect your momentum. All right. So with like velocity, let's just talk for a minute about velocity and mass. Like I said, velocity, if you can keep that positive focus, like, and getting everybody on the same page and moving, like that is going to create the biggest movement in your company. And then I talk a lot about like Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule, where a lot of times 80% of your results come from just 20% of the effort that you put in. And I always like to actually apply that to what's called the 64-4 rule, where if you put 80% of your effort into just the 20% that your business is niched at, or what your core competencies are, you can actually get 64% of your results with just 4% effort. Think about the movement that can happen with that. So I always like to throw that in just as a way to realize that you can, by having that mindset of being more effective and efficient and resourceful, like you can build that momentum through the velocity. Now mass, let's talk about mass for a second. This is the bonus section coming in. So this is where I got really excited, because in the mass section, if you think about what mass is, like I said, you could have more people on your team. That gives you more mass. You could have maybe more process and like technology added. It can kind of maybe let you get further faster with more mass. or like the bigger your company is, the bigger your list is. I already kind of listed some of these things. The more revenue you have, like all that adds to your mass. But I thought about it. So if you've listened to my first podcast, I did a podcast on team sourcing and the model that I've built over the last 15 years. And now, if you didn't listen to it, go back and watch that team sourcing podcast to learn what that concept is, because I'm not going to spend the time on this podcast about it. But team sourcing is an outsourcing solution that allows you to outsource services to a bunch of specialized teams. So whether it's marketing, sales, service and support, employee engagement, technology, accounting, like all of these teams, and they're all under one roof. So that company is able to be, our company, the center is able to be very strategic and innovative with the company, and they can autopilot pretty much 80% of their operations into our model. So it's awesome. It's so cool. So I thought about it, and we've priced our model. We work with Fortune 500 clients all the way down to solopreneurs and startups. And we've priced it for that reason. Like, we care about the entrepreneur and the startup. And so we wanted to make sure that like it could be a solution that they could afford as well. And it also allows them to be set up for growth, so they never have to outgrow their solution, because the things are the same in business anymore, no matter what size of company you are. You have to do the same thing on social media. You have to do the same, how you talk to your customers should be the same. People are demanding the same experience no matter the size of company. And so that actually has made it nice for our model, because we're able to bring the things that are great from an enterprise companies down to the startups, but we're able to bring the agility of startups up to the Fortune 500 clients that we have. And so I thought about this. So if team sourcing, because again, you're paying for a fraction of all these people, because you're not paying for 50 people on your team, you're paying for a percentage of all these 50 people. And so with that, you're able to now have mass, no matter the size of your company. And so I thought about the formula of momentum. So if you think about, let's say you didn't have any velocity, barely any velocity, and barely any mass in your business. So let's say 1 times 1. You have 1 velocity, 1 mass. I won't put units or anything, but like, okay, 1 times 1 is 1. So like, you don't have a lot of momentum. If you don't have a lot of energy, you have negative energy, and you don't have a lot of mass either. So nothing's compensating. So your business is stagnant. You're like, I have 0 momentum. Nothing's happening. But what if now you can put in like the things I talked about related to velocity? So you're able, still it's just you. So you have a 1 for mass, and you don't have a big list or anything. You're just getting started, but you're able to put a lot of positive focus in it. You know the vision of where you're headed. You're able to stay focused. And you're not going all over the place with chaotic days. Then you're able to have that more velocity, right? So let's say your velocity is a 7. So now you got 1 mass, 7 velocity, you're 7 now. So you're 7 momentum. And so now, okay, you're getting more momentum, right? But I thought, well, team sourcing, oh my goodness, we're solving the mass problem for every size of business. Because here's why. So let's say we just give you 7 mass based on our team sourcing model. Now you have more people. Like, again, our model is based on people, process, and technology. All of those can add, they're adding to that. They're adding really to velocity too. If you really look at it, it's actually would add things to your velocity, but let's just not even worry about it. Let's just only adding to mass. Like, now you have a team ready for you. It's growing. They can do things for you. You're able to stay focused. So now let's say we give you a mass of 7. And then you currently you're producing on your own a velocity of 7. That gives you momentum of 49. So that takes you from 1 to 7 to 49. Like, that's exponential. So it's not even, like, if you think about it, it's not even, that's why when people are like, well, are you cheaper than Philippines VA? No, we will never be. But it's not about that. It's the efficiency and the effectiveness and the velocity and the speed at which we're able to do things that overshadows any cost. Like, you don't have the turnover. You're able to move faster. So really, like, if companies are not really care about momentum, they're a lot of times not the best fit for what we're looking for, because we like clients that want to go further faster, that want to grow their company, that are excited about it. And because they're contributing to velocity and mass. We're contributing to velocity and mass. And now it's exponential. So that was my big aha moment that I was so excited about. And so I've probably gone way too long for this podcast because I kept going. But anyway, so if you want to learn about team sourcing, you can go to thecenter.com/team sourcing. So that's the center, CENTR.com/team sourcing. And honestly, you can get a free call with a team sourcing expert and just talk about it. Like, I love just giving you the possibility and to think about what you could do for your company and at least get you excited about it. So anyways, that was my big epiphany. I hope you can take takeaways. Like, my whole goal isn't to just pitch a team sourcing. That's not it. I obviously think it is like the solution to business. Like, I think it can revolutionize business. That's how excited I'm about it. So it's so hard for me to not bring it in as a solution to my podcast. So I am biased for team sourcing. I will say that in this podcast. But I think even if you don't utilize team sourcing, you can walk away with a whole lot of nuggets that you can implement into your business. And that's my goal. It's always been about what's best for you, not about what's going to make me the most money. I just care about team sourcing because I know it's going to solve so many problems business owners have, because I talk with so many all the time and I hear the same things over and over and over again. So when I talk about team sourcing, I'm so passionate about it because I want to I believe it solves so many problems for businesses. So anyways, I hope you're liking these. If you like them, go subscribe to my podcast and give me a review. Write a review. Give me 5 stars. Like, I want to build this podcast if you guys enjoy it. So thanks everyone, and I will see you on Thursday.
No, it doesn't have to be so hard. No, it doesn't have to be so hard.